I'm sorry about that. It's been windy out here and it blowed a piece of dirt in my eye and I couldn't see. And we was going to take it out of the film and I thought, we're making this as it is, the videos. There's no secrets out here. We're hay farmers. We get dust in our eyes. We got water. We're dealing with a lot of environments, but one of the big things is we was very fortunate to bring school kids back out here to our farm. I wanted to thank FFA, and this is my way of paying back. It just started out as a dream and an idea in high school, and we built this business here. And like all businesses, it was a dream to struggle to get, and it's still a dream to struggle to keep. So we're fighting every day to keep what we got. We went through droughts and floods and everything you can think of, and so is everybody else in this industry. Everybody that farms has a situation to deal with. I was trying to teach kids safety on some of the equipment. Some of the stuff I told the kids was to make sure when somebody's driving equipment in cars and vehicles, if you can't see the operator's eyes, they can't see you. And I showed them some other places not to stand next to equipment, not to run up to a tractor when somebody's operating it until they got it parked and ready to go, type of thing. And I've also explained to the kids, I kind of mentioned the building. It took carpenters. These are agricultural carpenters. They built milk and parlors and ag buildings. So a person in FFA, they could get into carpentry work and build dairy barns, beef barns, and stuff like that. You can get into other bigger stuff and put up grain bins. I worked for a company and put up grain bins while I farmed. There's nutritionists that went to college to figure out the diets, and they do this stuff here like I just did, go out and test the hay. And then the people, the growers and that of the industry, right down to the truck drivers to deliver the seed, to harvest the seed, to do the research. There's tons and tons of jobs and careers in agriculture. Matter of fact, I think it's the main job of everything out there. Biodiversity to me is very important in the hay industry is what's there, because we can feed cattle with hay and grasses. There's a lot of land that cannot be raised in row crops as well as hay. And like I made a statement before, I take my hillier, highly erodible ground and put hay in it. So if I can keep it in hay for 7 years, that's keeping the ground from washing. I don't have to worry in the spring with a wet year about getting them crops in. I got to worry about dry hay. Our weather is our biggest issue, putting up dry hay, and that's why I put the no smoking sign there. Really don't want kids to learn how to smoke, to catch things on fire. I got my fire extinguisher we keep in the barn here so that we're ready for that. Got a fire extinguisher on our combine up here. Stuff happens, and even my crone baler. I was baling straw one time, and my new crone baler, and a storm blowed a limb out in the windrow, and I didn't see it, and it clogged it up, and I didn't see that. We got the slip clutch hot, and I didn't see it because the stubbles was holding the weed up, and I was going really fast, 8 miles an hour, picking the straw up, and I wanted to get done. And we got a lot of things to do. And anyhow, when I turned around, I noticed, well, hell, the windrow was still behind the baler. And then I looked again, and there was smoke coming out. And it took all that fire extinguisher, and it happened to be a lake. And I was almost tempted to put my hay baler in the lake, and I had this fire, and you reach in there, you're grabbing hands full of fire out, and you don't realize you're doing it, But so yeah, I've been scared with fire for sure, and having fire extinguishers and stuff, even in the driest year, people with round balers, they catch on fire. Stuff happens. Belts break, slip pluses, and nobody wants to have an accident, but you've got to preach that to kids every day, or to everybody, and basically to yourself. How can I prevent an accident on the farm? And the biggest thing is not to get too big of a hurry on that part. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to me, taking an interest in the hay business. There's a lot of young farmers that can't find no ground. We're getting too many big farms, but there is some little farms that's got some hills and some places that they can bale hay and raise some livestock. So the kids, and you know, when I talk about kids, you could be a 75-year-old kid. There's no age limit on being a kid by heart on it, because a lot of people, it takes a lifetime to get to be a farmer. I mean, you work at it every day, and a lot of people have held 2 or 3 jobs. It costs a lot of money to buy a farm and to have a little bit of ground and do the things that you want to do. And most of the farmers right now are, on the average age, is 58 years old. So we're going to be replaced eventually. And the idea of having corporations come in and buy up all the land and farm it, they will have control of it. And before long, they'll decide what you're going to eat. You know, when you have one dairy, several hog farms that control everything, and right now alfalfa is still a product that some people call it a commodity, but my hay's ready to eat for the cattle and stuff there. The corn and beans have to go through a mechanical process to turn it into food or into another feed supplement that's added to the cattle. And once we get it put up dry and put in a barn, it's ready to eat. Now you can do baleage as well and wrap it. I know that some people here don't know that. I know there ain't nobody here, but I'm explaining it because, you know, kids here, so I'm gathering a little bit larger, older crowd here to advertise on my website, you know, basically what's going on with the hay business. But the biggest problem with hay is the weather. We had a lot of freezing and thawing that hurt the old stands. Remember when I said the roots grow that deep over the years into the ground? Well, if the top freezes and then it pulls it in two and kills that root, that hurts. And so a lot of stands was destroyed. Usually it was the older stands. By my dumb luck, I didn't cut any hay later, and I left it grow out. The snow protected it, it insulated it. But like anything, if I win there and I save the hay from the freezing and thawing, these mice, it's called voles, it's got no tails. They go around and they clip the roots and eat everything, and then the coyotes look for them and all the other stuff that animals eat, dig holes out in the field to get them little mice or whatever there. That's the other thing. Alfalfa provides a place for wildlife. By having mice in the fields here and they're covered, that gives all the bald eagles a place to, we got bald eagles coming out here. We never had that before. All the other, you know, owls and stuff like that. And then the deer are always out in our field, and foxes and raccoons and all the other stuff. And we do try to keep the raccoons out of this barn and stuff there. We don't like coon stuff on everything. But they really like John Deere combines. They like to poop all over the engine and stuff like that being there. Lisa, is there anything that you would like to ask? I'm trying to think of, I'm going to wrap this up really quick, you know. Is there anything that impressed you? Lisa didn't know anything about farming, but she's my website designer, so if you need anything done with Lisa for websites, she's available, and helped our business immensely on that, because we use our website to talk on the phone, and you can push on there and get Alpharex or our fencers and our other things as well there. But
videos on the website.
Huh?
Videos are on your website.
Yeah, the videos are on the website. So we're going to do a few other ones as we're sowing the hay. We got
I do have one question.
Yeah.
What is lignin?
Lignin.
Lignin?
Lignin is I want to say the strength of the stems. Basically, kind of like a ligament in your leg. I'm going to go and kind of put it like that, you know, that big
ligament.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough thing in that, and that's kind of like what it is in here. So if you got, that's what makes the stalk really stiff, and digest, but it stands better if you got more ligament in it. Give you an interest. Corn used to be, people used to plant years ago, was open pollinated. So farmers would save their own corn, and when they picked corn by hand, they had a box, and they seen a nice ear of corn, they put that in the box and used it for seed, and that's how they got better seed. And a lot of the corn, well, most family farms raised all the feed for themselves, so they picked the corn to feed the hogs, and then they made silage, or they also shocked up the corn out in the field and let it dry in the shock, and then they bring the shocks in the wintertime, fed the corn stalks to the cows and horses as hay, and they pulled the ears off, shelled it off, kind of ground it up for chicken feed, or fed it to the hogs, and anyhow, there was not much ligament in that corn, and the storms would come and it would go down. And as they came out with corn pickers, right before when the corn went down, the mechanical corn pickers wouldn't pick it up, and they come out with hybrid corn, and that's where hybrid corn came in really well. It increased the yield, and they bred into that the standability that would stand stronger. So it was higher, so the corn would stay better so you could pick it. And it was less digestible, though, in that stalk, because that stalk was now harder to eat because it stood there. So basically, it's kind of like the difference. Low ligament is kind of like eating a pine tree versus a walnut tree. The stalk being harder in that, so it was less digestible on it. But that open pollinated corn, back and then they fed it like hay, that was highly digestible, so they used it for a lot of feed and stuff. And the sorghum Sudan grass here is a low ligament as well, so that gets more digestibility.
Which one?
This one here, that there part, and this is what we sowed with the corn planter. We had these plates. This is a bean plate. But basically, I put Milo plates, and they fit in there, and there's a brush that holds that on. And for those, I had this out for the kids. We have to change these units. But basically, like here's a little, can you update on that? Little seed of corn.
Sure.
It gets caught in these fingers.
Is that from the planter?
And that's for the planter. And we changed these units in the back of that corn planter to put it in, and now I was trying to get it in. But anyhow, that would bring it around, and it'd go into this hole here, like there, in it, and it'd have a brush. The brush is there to knock off the tooth, so that keeps it, there, and then it would, see if it would drop out. The belt has little pieces in it, and when the seed would come out, that's how it would drop it down into the ground or whatever. Basically, the seed would fall in there, and then with the air delivery system, it keeps it right up into here. And that was one of the things when I was running out of planting corn. I'd have one box low, and I'd have to measure from one or the other. Having the air delivery system, I can finish up the field without stopping so much, get most of when I'm switching to different ones. And it makes it so much easier to clean the corn out by just emptying this little box and picking the big one off and stuff. So the third thing, the main thing that I had with the conventional corn boxes, the lids would come on. We'd have these gigantic storms, called tornadoes, and they would take them lids off of them boxes and just blow them all over. So having the big box lid on top, I didn't have to worry about it. Or if somebody needed a box lid, and sometimes I've lost some, I don't know why they're gone, but if you left it out in the field, sometimes you kind of wonder, where did that lid go?
Oh, yeah.
And then I've had a few of them that blowed off or bounced off or whatever, so I really like that. Everybody, thank you so much. Thank you for FFA. Anybody needs to support these groups. Here, we need to keep our kids involved. We're not going to be farming forever. There's a cemetery full of dreams and farmers, and we owe them a lot to keep everything going. And FFA is a good organization here in the high school. It's vocational agriculture. We need to support this. There's, not everybody is going to be, there's a lot of college here. People don't realize, we got the nutritionists and stuff here, and having the farm background with that college, so even belonging to there's a lot of kids in my FFA when I graduated that didn't come to the farm, but they worked on farms and stuff, and they learned to be welders, and they got to be pipe fitters and different type of things, machinists, automotive mechanics, tractor mechanics. They never really made it, actually farming, but they've got 20 or 30 acres and a nice lake and about 6 cows. They're happy, but they've got what they got today because they love farming. And they was in FFA, and there's people that's got small sheep herds that I sell hay to or whatever, and they was in FFA, and they might have some pasture and stuff, and we're seeing a lot more with chickens and stuff in the suburbs and stuff. There's a lot of people that buy 5-acre lots that have some horses. I don't really consider horses a farm animal unless you go out and work it with a plow, but you know what? There's a few of them out here too. We starting to see people with mules and stuff actually doing a little work there. It's definitely a hobby though, but they go out and compete with it, and if they got a good team of mules, they're worth a lot of money to somebody that there. So we're not that far from Arthur, Illinois, where the Amish is at, and so there's a hay market out there, but my strong suggestion before you raise the hay, go out and try to find some customers and ask them what they want. Some might want, orchard grass in their hay for the horses, whatever. You'll find out after whatever you have, they'll want something different. You try to have a variety of things, and sometimes it works out. But it takes experience to put up hay, and weather is one of the major things. And due to the fact that weather, I think people need to be aware of geoengineering. If you don't know what that is, I do have it on my website. You can click onto it. It's going to take a while for you to understand that, but weather change, climate change, geoengineering, a lot of policies right now, in England and France, people are gluing themselves to I think, what is it, what's the stock exchange in England? Saks or?
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know.
I don't know what it is, but anyhow, I just seen that today. They glued themselves to the windows and the doors and chaining themselves down. These people are worried about the weather in the future for their families, and they should be. And geoengineering is a play in that. It's not being in that derivative of weather change and our government policies and stuff. And forgive me, methane gas does not come just from cows. The Arctic is melting, and few individuals think that fake meat can replace beef, but they're eating these micronutrients up out of the field. It's in this hay. The milk is in this hay. This hay is in the milk, I should say. This hay is in the beef, it's in the sheep, it's in the wool. That's why it's important that we take this hay very seriously and this crop very seriously. It is growing just about in every state. There is maybe not quite alfalfa, but somewhere somebody's making hay someplace there to feed a horse or cows or goats or whatever. And these animals are factories within themselves. And you might want to, I know it's kind of hard to pull, you could lead a cow home and eat it if you wanted to. You'd have to, kill it and butcher it and whatever. And it's practical to go to the grocery store. But we've got a lot of fine butchers, restaurants, and they all use meat. They're real beef. And even the wildlife, they live off of this, and they need to be hunted to get excessive amount of deer that will do damage to crops and stuff. And that, we don't need to let that meat go to waste. It's not they're here to serve man, and that's just my opinion. And I don't have a problem with people not wanting to but for generations, the Indians and all the people have been eating meat to get protein, and the ones who are pushing that have something new to sell. And once you get rid of the livestock and the people that deal it, then you ain't going to be able to come back to it. And once it's gone forever. And I think the most important thing I'm going to tell the kids today, and maybe a lot of other people, don't have to be kids because they're going to need older people to take these kids there, but there's a lot of people in nursing homes that may not be able to walk in this hay shed, but they can still talk. And they can tell you memories, and they can tell you how to plan it. And these kids need somewhere of a direction, like how to make it and make it go. And I've learned everything about farming from my grandmother. And she didn't come from a farm, but she loved farming. And the fact that she loved farming, I put there. And I did have another grandmother that came from a farm, but they did farm, and so they didn't have to talk about it. We already knew what there is to know about it. So anyhow, the point of it is, the best things about life, don't let these old, once these people are gone, you never get it back. And it's one generation to the other. What I'm doing here has been passed on now 3 or 4 generations to me, and I like to pass that on. But not everybody's kids are in agriculture. My son's interested in it. My daughter's interested in it. But our farm is not going to be big enough to support them here in the future, and we're having a hard time, maintaining what we're doing. And that was one of the other reasons I went into hay, is to try to get, generate more income into that. But if it goes raining and you can't get it cut, and then the quality ain't there when you do cut it, and then when afterwards it goes into a drought and it don't grow, or you get a 7-inch or 9-inch rain after you cut and it all gets washed down the ditch. The engineering of the weather here is hard for people to realize and digest. But Dane Wigington's got a website out there, and if you take the time and look at it, and that's probably the problem that we're having today. Everybody has got an issue to deal with. I can't walk anywhere without somewhere being cancer being a problem, or Alzheimer's or Parkinson's disease, and people want to blame it on some of these chemicals, and it might be. When we used them, we thought they were safe, and we're finding out otherwise. But hay has been safe. It's been around for hundreds of years. Alfalfa produces nitrogen in the ground. It's a legume. So if you had alfalfa here, and then grass needs nitrogen being with it. And I think we need to get our kids educated in the weather and the environment, the biodiversity, because a lot of universities and a lot of big companies are trying to sell their narrative. So, if you got one machine and one chemical called magic blood for slime to make fake hamburgers, they're not, hamburger comes from cattle. So I don't know, you can't call it, they're trying to change the name of it, whatever, but
Burger King.
Huh?
Burger King.
Well, I won't mention the companies, but they're trying to call it something else now. I think they're calling it a magic burger or something like that. But the reality of it is, it ain't organic if you got to manufacture it by adding chemicals to it to do something, So part of it. And the thing of it is, when we talk about chemicals, we could, salt's a chemical. Some of the other preservatives, we got preservatives in a can. Yeah, if you eat too much of one thing, spread your diet out. My gosh, you don't have to eat all hamburgers. You don't have to eat all eggs. You don't have to drink all milk. But I like the real deal, and I know it's growing in the sun. It comes from God, and I kind of like that way. This is something that, God made for us, is hay and these crops, and we are genetically engineering some of these crops to suit our needs. I can't say that was bad, because God allows us to have the knowledge to do that. I think what I don't like is the idea that somebody can have the patent on life. I'm not for that. We've got to have more businesses. We can't have one company controlling all the seed and all, and that's what I'm getting at. We need we need a lot of different avenues here, because if we get to the point where you get rid of the farmer, you're going to have one company, and they're only going to produce what sells. You know, if somebody like to had a cheap car to drive, try to buy a car with a 3-speed transmission without air conditioning. It can't be done. You know, but if you could do that, you probably could save $10,000 on it. At least you'd have a vehicle go up and down the road. So that's what I'm trying to say on that. You know, the technology has went so far where they want to control the tractors and the combines out there. So far my seed company is out here in the business of helping farmers stay in business. And I'm just proud to sell their seed, and I know that the growers and the farmers, because farmers are raising this seed too as well, and they're dealing with the environmental issues. That's why the sorghum Sudan, they had droughts and floods, so they didn't have the yield like they did there. So take the time and do your research on the crops, your customers. Do the due diligence to make a business work is what I'm wanting to tell you. And the kids got a great future in anything that they're willing to work at, being there. So a lot of people want to farm, don't kill their dream. They might have to be a doctor to have the money to buy the land. And believe it or not, 3 of them kids here, they love farming and they're going to be doctors. So I know there's a lot of doctors that own farmland, and people rent from them, or they do farming themselves. So it's the love of farming. That's the reason that we're still here, and we just like the outdoors and like the memories. So let's keep making them. Thank you.